Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'd like to do a deep dive technical analysis of Bitcoin and strategy MSTR stock, giving you my price predictions using technical indicators. I'll also be covering the latest updates that we're getting around the crypto market and why Bitcoin is extremely bullish with this bull cycle. Most of you are wondering how high can Bitcoin really go? I'll be covering the latest updates and why MicroStrategy is the ultimate hedge with Bitcoin and why it's positioned to reach a price level that we're not expecting. So if you're new to this channel, first off, I would really appreciate hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. And just with Bitcoin, we just learned that Bitcoin, it's off to the races right now in terms of market asset class. I mean, it's hovering, above Amazon. It bypassed other rankings and now it's like right behind Google. So I think it's just a matter of time where eventually Bitcoin asset commodity is going to bypass Apple, Nvidia, and then be right behind gold that's leading the race. And at one point in about 2 to 3 years, Bitcoin is going to be the number one asset class. What does that mean for companies like Strategy and other companies that are adopting the strategy business model? We'll cover all of that. Let's begin, guys. Here's an interesting post in that Bitcoin spot ETFs added 936 million worth of Bitcoins to their holdings, annihilating Monday's numbers. Expect more inflows into Bitcoin as economic uncertainties persist. And we've been hearing a lot about tariffs, and I believe there may be a potential trade deal between Trump and China where we're going to get more clarity, and the tariff wars may soon have less tension, although that's not likely going to be going away. But what we're noticing is just with the inflows that's been going into like the big time ETFs like IBIT. So people like seeing Bitcoin price move up. That's when there's more inflows with monies. But I think it's once you see Bitcoin price at levels that we have not seen, that's where people really get validation to invest. That's when ETF inflows are going to be much bigger. Just looking at Bitcoin ETF inflows, I mean, back in April, time for early April, we saw like heavy outflows because of the retracement of Bitcoin. People were afraid to lose with their investments. That's why we saw a lot of selling. But what's happening over the course of time now, since beginning of April 17th to now, the last couple of days, we've been just seeing big time inflows coming in. I think people are beginning to have that early phase FOMO effect, although FOMO hasn't fully kicked in yet, but it definitely will if and when Bitcoin price gets to like 180, $250,000. Think about how much more inflows into ETFs are going to come, especially with the financial institutions allowing the ability to invest into crypto, into retirement funds, along with all the crypto exchanges where people can start buying altcoins and Bitcoin as well. Here's a post from Anthony Pompliano. So there was a company that was announced today called 21, and it will hold more than 42,000 Bitcoin, starting off around 4 billion on its balance sheet. And their goal is to use the MSTR playbook, acquire much Bitcoin as they possibly can in the next several years until Bitcoin becomes more and more expensive and depleted. There's only X amount of Bitcoins available, but there's going to be a three-pronged approach with Tether, SoftBank, and Cantor Fitzgerald. The CEO will be Jack Mallers. So things are really going to get crazy as more public entities start to enter the Bitcoin world. We heard about GameStop and all that, but this is a sentiment. Game theory is really ramping up right now. But when you think about it, when other companies tried to apply the MSTR playbook, that's only going to be a win-win situation for the entrepreneurial mindset. Michael Saylor, in that he's been buying up Bitcoin since the beginning. I mean, back in 2020. So 5 years of solid conviction, consistency, taking audacious moves where no one really believed in Bitcoin at the time. So now we're beginning to see, the herd follow through, and I think people are becoming to embrace Bitcoin as a way to optimize their company, and that's with 21 trying to apply this approach. But when you think about it, Cantor Fitzgerald is owned by, Howard Lutnick, and his son is part of that financial institution now. Howard Lutnick got elected U.S. Secretary of Commerce, and he has a boatload invested into Bitcoin, Tether. We heard about SoftBank investing into AI, $500 billion into the AI project to support artificial intelligence innovation in the United States, where there's going to be demand for AI energy based facilities to support that, as well as now SoftBank planning to buy Bitcoin. In fact, Howard Lutnick, he owns a boatload of MSTR stock as well. So using this as an avenue to ramp up, positive return on investment to the shareholders. And this is only going to allow for Howard Lutnick's bankroll to just increase significantly. Let's take a look at Chris Millis's posting. I mean, very interesting post, but very true. I mean, we've heard Michael Saylor talk about this in that Amazon monopolized e-commerce, digital commerce. Apple monopolized digital devices. I mean, half of the world uses Apple iPhones. Google, I mean, with their search engine, they monopolized digital information. Facebook, what do? They monopolize social media with digital relationships. Netflix, they monopolized, digital entertainment. Everyone's watching, streaming videos, shows through Netflix now. It's a dependency. Spotify has done the same, monopolizing digital music. What is strategy doing? They're monopolizing digital capital, transforming how we look at digital finance. And now all the financial institutions are really embracing Bitcoin. And this is how really changed the way that we look at retirement investing now through Bitcoin. And strategy is doing that by stacking Bitcoin on their balance sheets, hodling, and there's truly no second best. So, do you understand what is going on? Strategy is eventually going to be a trillion-dollar company. It's going to bypass, I think, at one point, like Apple, Google. So it's only a matter of time when they're going to, in the near term, get into S&P 500 index, and at one point just be the biggest company to date. Here's another interesting post from Chris Millis. Follow the money. After Trump's return to the White House, what did he do? He recruited Howard Lutnick as the U.S. Secretary of Commerce. This guy has tons of money. I mean, he owns Cantor Fitzgerald Financial Institution. Now, Lutnick is responsible for running the U.S. Sovereign Wealth Fund, and he's working with, Senator Cynthia Lummis on the Strategic Bitcoin Act of 2025. And what Lutnick has stated is that he personally owns hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. Lutnick was a CEO of American financial services firm Cantor Fitzgerald before assuming his role as Secretary of Commerce. Now, he currently, Cantor Fitzgerald Financial Institution owns 3.58 million shares of MSTR worth over 1 billion. That equates to over 40% of its entire portfolio. What does this mean? Follow the money from the White House to the president, pro Bitcoin president, Howard Lutnick, financial institution, hodling, even Tether, Bitcoin, and MicroStrategy. So just follow that money. With all of that, I want to cover technical analysis before we play some video clips. We're looking at technical analysis of Bitcoin. Definitely nice price action that we're seeing. We broke through that 50-day moving average in orange, which is, back in 4 days ago. And then what happened? 4 days later, April 22nd, we saw Bitcoin price just break through that 200-day simple moving average and now hovering over 93,000. I think that Bitcoin is primed for a big breakout, especially after coiling up, retracing down lower lows for like several months, topping off at that prior resistance of 110,000. But like what Tom Lee says, we may very well break into that 180, $200,000. We've heard from billionaires that it may very well go into 250,000. We have even heard of Josh Mandel's a forecast of 444,000, as well as billionaire forecasting it can go above $850,000 in this cycle. So we hear so many different forecasts. We don't have that magic 8 ball, but we've seen over the course of, like a decade and a half as how Bitcoin runs up. When it runs, this puppy just sends it to different levels. So it's only a matter of time where we're going to see Bitcoin get into that $1 million range from a long-term perspective. But in the near term, I think in 2025, that sweet spot is somewhere around that. I'm thinking $180,000 is my price forecast. What does this mean if and when Bitcoin price breaks 150,000, $180,000? We may very well see MicroStrategy bounce back up. I mean, definitely will break through that, prior resistance of like 540. But one of the key indicators that we're seeing is that it's broken out of this bull flag, which is a key signal. I've been talking about this prior resistance line that we've seen the price action hover now through multiple occurrences 3 times since February. So it'll be very important to see price action hover either above this V-shaped launch, above that resistance line, or just hover around that resistance line where that will then become the new support as it establishes the new basement level with the higher level support. Then we may very well see the price action mature into that 400 range and then just step into that 500 range as soon as we see Bitcoin price get back into that 110, $120,000. I think if Bitcoin gets to that $120,000, we'll definitely bypass this prior resistance. And let's say when Bitcoin, whether that's going to be in Q3, whether it gets to that $200,000, I think that MicroStrategy definitely can break through that $750 and can very well land somewhere in that $1,000 per share price range. But based on technicals, this is definitely what we want to see. Relative strength picking up, MACD's picking up, volumes picking up, and this is where I think it's a win-win situation with 21 being established, companies following the MSTR playbook. Anytime when companies adopt Bitcoin by buying Bitcoin, adding it to their treasury, that's only going to increase the demand. And what does that mean? Price of Bitcoin goes up. Cost average for every Bitcoin that MicroStrategy has purchased is around $67,000. Let's say if Bitcoin goes up to like $240,000, that's a 4x gain, just return on their way of investing. So in that way, they'll be able to accumulate more money and increase their hodl. And as a result, they'll have a big stack. At the end of the day, when you scale out with time, the company that has the most Bitcoin on their balance sheet is really going to be the true Bitcoin bank that has the ability to monopolize and have power. So MicroStrategy has more Bitcoins than even all governments around the world when you equate US and China alone. So that really puts MicroStrategy in a strong situation based on fundamentals and technicals because we've been just seeing a big bloodbath, since November timeframe to now. I think we're going to see either a solid V shape or a nice continue U-shaped pattern pickup, but we're definitely going to see that prior resistance be achieved and then see it reach higher levels, all-time high prices for MicroStrategy.
Yeah, I mean, I had a conversation with a sovereign that was interested in the ETF because they wanted to get ahead of the US buying it. And it was just a faster, easier button. I do think they'll end up buying both. If you look at gold market, for instance, that's what you see. People own gold ETFs and they own gold bars. The same thing is going to be true here in crypto. So I think it's probably more likely that more sovereigns are going direct, but you'll definitely see more than one take the ETP route. It's just incredibly convenient, incredibly low cost.
But our intent, Caroline, is that when you buy a share of 21, and let's say that's 0.005 Bitcoin per share, we go out and we intend to close deals, build products, add Bitcoin to our treasury to where in which you get a press release and you say, wow, 21's Bitcoin per share grew from 0.05 to 0.06. I just got more Bitcoin exposure. I got wealthier in Bitcoin terms just by being a shareholder of this company. An ETF is not an operating company. IBIT isn't outgrowing your exposure to Bitcoin. It's a static exposure through their security instrument. Whereas for us, we're a business. I'm a CEO. Right. I get up, I work every day to grow how much Bitcoin your share represents on our balance sheet. That's the big difference.
Digital money is profound. It's so profound that everybody in the business of managing money doesn't even understand what this means. When they understand what this means, then the industry is going to 100x. Bitcoin is going to go to the moon.
So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your thoughts are. How high do you think Bitcoin price is going to be? What's your prediction of MicroStrategy's share price in 2025? Thank you guys. I'll catch you on the next one.